Avatar: The Way of Water is the sequel to 2009's Avatar from James Cameron. And before we get out with anything here, James Cameron is a gigantic asshole, and he knows it. We all know it, but goddamn, he can make a movie, and he can make a stunning-looking movie here in Avatar: The Way of Water. It's written and directed by James Cameron in addition to 4 other people on the story. That comes to a head later on with the story and the script, but for now, let's talk about the visuals. The visuals for Avatar: The Way of Water are where it's at. It is one of the most visually stunning movies I've ever seen, and it sets the standard for visuals, for CG, for effects with water, fire, forests, everything. It is a beautifully stunning movie that will capture your imagination and capture your attention every time you look at the screen. James Cameron knows where to put everything perfectly to where your eye sees it. If you're seeing it in 3D, it looks stunning. The 3D effects are amazing as well. And Avatar: The Way of Water is just, it's just stunning. That's the one word I can think of to describe the movie. It is stunning looking. As far as what's it about, it picks up where Avatar left off. Jake Sully and Neytiri have kids, and they're living their life pretty happily. But Quaritch, who was played by Stephen Lang from the first film, who died in the first film, comes back as a Na'vi. They've implanted his memory and his consciousness from before he left to Pandora into a new Na'vi body with some other soldiers, and they are there to kill Jake Sully. That is the whole thing about Avatar: The Way of Water. It's a 3-hour and 10-minute movie about this one guy trying to get his revenge on Jake and his family. And so Jake and his family have to leave and go move somewhere else to one of the water tribes of Pandora. Does it capture your attention? Yes, it does. It does everything from Avatar 1 better. The visuals are better. The story is better. It's more memorable. The characters are better. Instead of just these 2 characters that we focused on in Avatar 1, it expands to include the entire Sully family and all these other characters that come in and out of the story. That expansion does leave a little bit to be desired with the story and the script, however, because the first half of the movie just feels kind of like these vignettes where they go on for really long. There's no cuts in between them, between the different storylines that they're juggling. It's just like, here's 20 minutes of Jake and his kids learning how to dive. Here's 20 minutes of Quaritch trying to make his son Spider like him. Here's another 20 minutes of the Sully kids doing something. Here's 20 minutes, and it sort of just adds all these things together, and there's no inner cuts between them. It's really weirdly paced, and for a 3-hour and 10-minute movie, the pacing is really important to make it feel like it doesn't feel like 3 hours, and yet it does feel like a 3-hour movie as you're watching it. Particularly in the third act, that 3-hour and 10-minute runtime really hits you hard, where it feels like certain things are just there so that they can call back to them in the third act, and some things don't even get called back to. And I know that they're making a sequel to this as well. They filmed them back to back with Avatar 2 and 3, so we're getting a sequel next year with this in Avatar 3. It doesn't have a title yet, but it just feels like certain things are just thrown in there like, hey, it's going to be in the sequel, don't remember it. Or remember it for the sequel, but don't remember it for the third act of this movie. As for the performances, Sam Worthington, Zoe Saldana, Stephen Lang, and Britton Cowell are the highlights of Avatar: The Way of Water. Particularly Britton Cowell, because he's the only one that's working as just a human being. Everyone else is in motion capture suits, or they were recorded beforehand, and then while they were filming it, they were put on a screen with their performance with a speaker, so at least they could look for something to see for the eye lines when, you know, it's a tiny human person looking up at a 7-foot-tall Na'vi. Cowell does a great job as Spider. He adds an edge of humanity to where Stephen Lang is character, Quaritch, is lacking his humanity, even though now he's a Na'vi. He just hates, you know, the Na'vi, hates Jake Sully, hates his family, wants to kill them. And Spider sort of brings that back, brings him back to humanity, and it's a great performance from him. Sam Worthington and Zoe Saldana, particularly in the emotional areas of the film, especially in that third act, are really, really spot on with their performances. Zoe Saldana shows you exactly what a mother would do if you mess with her kids. And the rest of the characters are pretty fine. It's really weird to see Sigourney Weaver as a 14-year-old, like, Na'vi girl or whatever. The VFX artists did go back and look at other early career stuff for Sigourney Weaver and sort of make her look a little bit more like her old self with her mannerisms and everything, but it's just kind of jarring because especially Sigourney Weaver just has this sort of distinct voice that you hear coming out of this, like, young Navi's body, basically. The other characters are there. Kate Winslet kind of gets wasted in this movie. She has sort of it's not really a bit part, but she doesn't get a lot to work with here outside of her character and outside of being the queen of the tribe that Jake and his family go to seek help from. And the other characters, they kind of do their job. The kids are there, and they're not annoying, but there's just not anything super remarkable about their performances, and you can tell some of the story details and beats that come based on how much screen time each of the kids are given. So through it all, through those issues with the script and the pacing, Avatar: The Way of Water is still one of the most visually stunning films I've ever seen. It sets the standard for VFX. It sets the standard for, everything. The thing looks like a video game, but not in a detractive way. It's just so amazing to look at. It's just a visual feast for your eyes on a screen. See it in IMAX. See it on a gigantic screen. It's one of James Cameron's best, and you can see there's a lot of little homages to James Cameron's career throughout this one. You get a little bit of The Abyss, you get a little bit of Aliens, you get a little bit of Terminator 2, and so it just all adds together and coalesces into this wonderful film that James Cameron has made with the help from a collaborative effort across the board from visual effects artists, Weta, and everyone along the way from the top down. Avatar: The Way of Water is a collective great film of the year. It's not one of the best films of 2022. There are definitely better ones from a storyline perspective, but from a visual film technique standpoint, this is the gold standard going forward for all sorts of effects with water and fire and everything, and creatures and how they interact, and how you can interact with humans and CG and all of that. The effects that go into people touching each other, there's some really crazy effects with Spider the Human getting hugged by some of the Na'vi that are just outstanding. So I give James Cameron and Avatar: The Way of Water a 91 out of 100. It is well worth your watch. Go see it in 3D. Go see it with the high frame rate option. If it might mess with your eyes a little bit, I know sitting there watching in IMAX 3D high res, and it looks beautiful, but it does mess with your eyes a little bit, especially as James Cameron throttles the frame rate in between scenes even. So you'll be seeing action scenes where the frame rate is higher, and then scenes that are in the same scene where it's lower, so it just kind of messes with your eyes. If you do have migraine issues, I don't recommend seeing it in 3D, especially when it gets darker, especially if you have light triggers or whatever, where something is darker over one eye and lighter over one eye. That might be an issue, so you might want to go see it in 2D for that. But if you want to see it in the best possible format, go see it in IMAX 3D, high res, to have just your eyeballs just exploding with beautiful detail from Avatar: The Way of Water. It releases in theaters on December 16th, this Friday, so make sure to go check it out. And make sure to like, comment, and subscribe, and do all that YouTube stuff. It really helps me out with the channel to know what you want to see. What do you want to see me review next? I have a Roadhouse 4K Blu-ray coming out that I'm going to do a review for. We've got the year-end stuff, and of course we've got Judas Priest-a-thon for those heavy metal fans out there. But thank you for watching. Make sure to go see Avatar: The Way of Water in theaters. And from me and Eddie and the Na'vi to you, thanks for watching.